The day begins without announcement. Not with light exactly, but with the removal of darkness. The room adjusts itself before the body does. Sound is already present, continuing from where it never fully stopped. Words arrive without invitation. They are not addressed to anyone in particular, which makes them harder to ignore. There is no urgency in them. That would imply choice. The body moves because it has learned that stillness draws attention. Movement, performed at the expected pace, dissolves into the background. The walls are bare not because decoration is forbidden, but because it would suggest a preference. Preference requires memory. Memory requires comparison. Comparison invites a pause. Pauses linger. It is easier not to linger. Faces appear on screens, on paper, in reflectionless glass. They do not look at anyone, they look through. Their expressions are fixed in a way that suggests reassurance, though reassurance of what is never specified. The same words recur, not often enough to feel like repetition, but often enough to feel unavoidable. They are smooth words, soft-edged, designed to pass through thought rather than stop it. The body accepts them the way it accepts weather. Outside, the streets hold people the way containers hold liquid, no gaps, no collisions, just pressure evenly distributed. Everyone occupies approximately the same amount of space. Too much presence attracts correction. Too little presence invites inquiry. Walking is safest when it looks unconscious. There is a rhythm to it, not musical, administrative. No one looks bored. Boredom implies surplus attention. Attention is something to be spent carefully, like breath in a sealed room. Most faces carry the mild vacancy of people who have learned where not to look. Eyes move, but only along permitted paths. Corners of vision are trained to blur. Occasionally, someone hesitates. It is never dramatic, just a fraction of a second too long on a word, a face, a thought that does not fully arrive. The hesitation corrects itself almost immediately. The person continues. Nothing happens. That is the point. What happens is internal and therefore invisible. Language here is efficient, not elegant. Certain words arrive pre-smoothed, as though worn down by handling. Other words simply stop appearing. Their absence is not remarked upon. Absence rarely is. People do not miss what they cannot safely name. Conversation occurs, but lightly. It skims the surface of things already agreed upon. There is relief in agreement. Agreement requires less effort than doubt, and effort accumulates. Accumulation leads to strain. Strain draws notice. Notice is a form of heat. Work proceeds. Tasks complete themselves through repetition. Each action confirms the previous one, creating a chain that feels solid precisely because it is never examined. The hands know what to do. The mind follows at a respectful distance. Thinking too closely about a task introduces angles. Angles cast shadows. Shadows suggest depth. Depth is unnecessary. Time passes without landmarks. There are divisions, but they are procedural rather than felt. The body knows when to stop because stopping is announced. The announcement is calm, calm enough to trust, calm enough to obey without the embarrassment of urgency. At intervals, the screens change. Images rearrange themselves. Statements are updated. The update does not feel like a correction. It feels like maintenance, as though reality itself requires regular servicing to prevent malfunction. No one reacts. Reaction would imply comparison with what came before. Before is indistinct. Sometimes a memory attempts to surface. It is never clear, more a sensation than an image, a softness where hardness should be, a sense that something once required less caution. The thought does not complete itself. Completion would require certainty. Certainty is dangerous when unapproved. The sensation fades. Relief follows. Relief is the body thanking the mind for letting go. People learn to be grateful for that relief. There are rules, but they are not recited. They are absorbed, like posture, like accent, like the instinct to lower one's voice without being told. Enforcement is rarely visible. Visibility would imply disruption. Instead, there is correction, quiet, precise, final. After correction, people return, slightly altered, slightly smoother. as though a rough edge has been sanded down. Others notice, but do not comment. Commenting would require acknowledging change. Change is always described elsewhere, never here. At night, if it is night, the body rests without fully withdrawing. The sound continues. It does not intrude, it reassures. Silence would invite thought. Thought would wander. Wandering is inefficient. Sleep arrives in stages, shallow, managed. Dreams, if they occur, are unremarkable. They rarely contain faces. Faces imply recognition. Recognition implies distinction. Distinction implies separation. Separation is uncomfortable. In private moments, if such moments still exist, the narrowing becomes more apparent, not as pain, but as accommodation. Like furniture rearranged to fit a smaller room, thoughts fold themselves, feelings compress. The inner space remains functional, just reduced. There is no outrage about this. Outrage requires contrast. Contrast requires an alternative. Alternatives are abstract. Occasionally someone laughs. The laugh is brief, correctly timed. It does not linger into reflection. Laughter that lingers becomes suspicious. Suspicion is an inefficiency. Everything here favors efficiency. The system does not feel heavy. That would imply resistance. It feels complete, like air pressure, like gravity. Things fall as expected. People adapt without being asked. Compliance is not enforced so much as rehearsed, repeated, refined. Over time, even the idea of refusal loses texture. It becomes a word without weight, something historical, something theoretical, like a muscle no longer used. The most unsettling thing is not fear. Fear spikes, fear exhausts, fear passes. What remains is narrower. A carefulness that feels responsible, a silence that feels mature, a calm that feels earned. People tell themselves this is stability. They are not wrong, exactly. Stability is present. It simply costs more each day, paid in increments too small to measure. By the time anything feels missing, there is no language left to describe it. And so the world continues, not tense, not collapsing, not aflame, but orderly, restrained, and watchful. A place where nothing is forbidden outright, yet almost nothing feels possible. Not because resistance has failed, but because, quietly, without announcement, the space where resistance might have formed has been made smaller than a thought can safely occupy. And life proceeds calmly inside that reduced space.